right, so we can get started. Good afternoon. My name is Juergen Steinmetz. I'm joining you from livestream.travel in Honolulu, together with eTurboNews, Hawaii News Online, and the World Tourism Network. We're coming together today for our travel talk. So we're trying to do once or twice a week, make this travel talk a little bit more interactive. Usually you just see Peter and myself and sometimes a guest. But now we're trying to involve everybody. So that maybe makes it a little bit more exciting, because we can hear from you what's on your heart and what's on your agenda and what's important to you in the world of travel, tourism, and of course, whatever reflects travel and tourism. So without further ado, I wanted to introduce my co-host, Dr. Peter Tarlow, and co-founder of the World Tourism Network. He's joining us from Texas. Hi, Peter.
Hi, Juergen. It's good to see you again. Hope you're having a great day and good evening from Texas. I'm looking forward to hearing from everybody. Today, I think to make this a little more interesting, one, we'd like to hear from you all, the public, about if you like this format or don't like this format. And secondly, please become part of the World Tourism Network, because this is really something that the World Tourism Network is doing for the public. And it's important that we support it and allow it to exist, because nothing in this world, unfortunately, is free. So having said that, I think it would be helpful as every day we had, when we have these discussions, at least to begin the conversation, a kind of topic. So one of the things that I was wondering about is how many people find going to these trade shows, often called markets, such as in Berlin or the Arabian tourism market, are they useful to you? Is it something that helps your business or doesn't help your business? And maybe that's a way just to begin to discuss. There's lots of other news going on in the world today, including a big change in the WTTC. But anyway.
Yeah, that's an important subject, Peter, because as some of you know, I'm literally, my suitcases are packed. I'm ready to leave tonight to go to Dubai. And this is going to be my first really overseas trip. I went to Mexico for the WTTC summit, what is not really a trade show, but Dubai is kind of going back into a regular track of actually going to a real live trade show. And I'm all excited, and Peter is right. We'd like to hear from you what you think about trade shows and the future of trade shows. I know how important trade shows are for the meeting and incentive industry, not only in travel, but anyways,
in many parts of the world,
many
industries.
And we would just love to get your feedback, and also we wanted to see who's on our network right now, so you can introduce yourself and tell us who you are and who you represent and
where you're from,
so
that people know.
And if there's another subject you'd like to mention, feel free to do this. Maybe keep it for like 3 minutes or so. And let's maybe start with Nancy Barkley, because Nancy is running and is in charge of our honeymoon and destination wedding group. She's joining us, I think it was Philadelphia or Washington. I think we're far on the East Coast. But Nancy, and we have a number of things planned. You might want to just tell everyone as well. But let's start with you. Go ahead.
Yes, hi. My name is Nancy Barkley, and I am out of Philadelphia, and I am a certified wedding planner, and I am thrilled to be the chair for the World Tourism Network. And we hit the ground running, and we have another event coming up, and I really hope everybody will join and look on the World Interest Group under my interest of weddings and honeymoon tourism and join us. To answer your question, I am so excited you are going to Dubai next week. I am so happy for you. I personally am going, my first planned is I'm speaking in Turkey in September on the subject of destination weddings. I can't wait to get back out there. I can't wait to get on a plane. I'm fully vaccinated and I'm ready to go.
Yeah, boy, do I'm leaving tomorrow for New York and Mexico City next week, so I understand.
Oh, good for you.
I can't wait to get on a plane also.
I know.
Yeah. People, I think it would be good to join in. And something I think Juergen and I wanted to say, which was that this is an ongoing conversation, but we know that people may come in and out as they need to. I have to get up tomorrow at 3 o'clock in the morning, Texas time. So I'm going to stay on this conversation for about half an hour.
Okay.
So don't feel that you have to stay to the bitter end. Come and go as you like.
Yeah, it's like a coffee without the coffee, I guess. You know. But yeah, Diana, and I just got a tweet from my colleague who is joining me in Dubai, and he's currently in Los Angeles boarding a Turkish Airlines flight to Istanbul, and from there he will go on to Dubai. And he's telling me he's really worried about getting kicked off the plane. The plane is overbooked, and he doesn't have a seat yet. So it looks like tourism is really coming back. I'm surprised because I thought, these flights got to be really empty, but they're not. And my flight tomorrow to Frankfurt on Lufthansa, looking at the seat map, is almost completely empty. So I guess it depends where you go and what to expect. But yeah, we're ready. And thanks for your comment. Let's say who else has the camera on. Our friend Giso, and she's right here from Hawaii, is with us. And tell us a little bit more who you are and what you think about events and anything else you think is important to bring up today. Welcome. You need to unmute yourself, please.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, I am in Honolulu, as Juergen said. Yeah, my name is Kisu Rosala. My background is engineering. I do energy efficiency and sustainable operations for commercial and residential buildings. And well, I am excited to hear you guys are going out there. Yeah, I'm still waiting, and I have to say I'm scared. I'm still scared to get on a plane. Yeah, in case of Juergen, I think I would feel comfortable being one of a few passengers. Yeah, but if it's really fully booked, I think we are lucky in the state of Hawaii that a lot of people have the vaccine, but at the end, you don't know who is going to be vaccinated once you get on a plane, yeah, and especially for the long hour planes, yeah. So if it's, and everything from Hawaii is just considered as not a close distance flight, yeah. So yeah, but I think, yeah, a lot of countries are suffering. Europe is very slow with opening. US is kind of pushing us into more opening, which of course will recover, hopefully, the economic situation. Yeah, in general, I think, yeah, I am still hoping that we learn from our mistakes, yeah, that we do understand how decision making for now and future has to change in order to really be able to make better decisions, especially from the leadership, because it doesn't come, I don't think that is, as much as it's necessary for the democracy, for the people to be able to be on the street, change is still needs to be delegated. And because this delegation usually comes from leadership, I strongly believe and advocate for better leadership in any organization. So
No,
that is,
and that is definitely true. And maybe if you guys saw, or someone already saw our report, we have a recording, what is not edited, and it's transcribed also on eTurboNews from a little bit earlier today, from a webinar or a podcast the Brand USA gave. This is our US agency in charge of international tourism promotion. And you can hear about their plan and their discussion on how to relaunch tourism to the US. It's quite useful, I think, to listen to it and to read through it. So you find it on eTurboNews right now if you look at the last articles on there. And yeah, I see Lucky Chetri has the camera on. So let's hear from Lucky. How are you?
From Nepal, right?
Thank you so much. Good morning. This is morning in Nepal. I'm very happy to have here. We are working here in the tourism since more than 20 years and our program is a little bit different. We are encouraging women in tourism because in Nepal tourism is one of the main economic resources, but women were not involved, and now we are paving the path for mountain women especially, and this is really going well. And I am very happy to hear the diverse group of the tourism, and this is the beauty of tourism networking. And you guys are very lucky that you are saying that you are traveling these days to one place to another. And Dubai is very close to us, but unfortunately, because of this pandemic situation, at the moment we are not allowed to travel anywhere. And as the question of the Peter, that if we have been attended any global program, yes, we have been. Our team has attended the Berlin program, Berlin March, and we are getting really good, response from there as well. We have quite good number of people from there, and also we have been to WTM London and. Also, some other small program, bigger one is Berlin and WTM, and this is a really great opportunity for us because we were working in our in Nepal only, never got chance to go away and to attend like that kind of mart and like tourism mart, and we got a chance to do that, and now we are getting quite good big group, so we are very happy on that. So I really encourage the tourism leaders to organize like this kind of program. So many people who are in the grassroots level, they are doing different things. They will get the platform to platform for their marketing. And another thing, the Gisio, I think I don't know how to pronounce, but anyway,
I know it's fine.
she,
So, yeah.
uh, so she said like about the nature, and now this is big question for everybody, maybe, or maybe for me. I think how can we encourage all the nature-based tourism, you know, and how can we encourage people to give back to the nature kind of tourism? This is something that we have to think about it, because we are all getting getting from nature, and there are so many places that is nature based tourism, but we are not thinking for the future, just we are getting but not paying back to the nature. So that sort of tourism we have to think, because I want to give I'm taking little long time, sorry for that, but I want to give one example. In Nepal, we had 4 seasons, and 2 season, like from March to May, whole May, and from June, the monsoon was starting. But these days, we can't predict our season, and still now we are feeling cold and we are having jumper on, and it was a very, very good season. That is a hot, warm, nice, pleasant weather, but it's a gray weather outside. We haven't got any sunshine so far. So this is how the climate is changing everywhere, and it has been affecting the area. So we have to think about this kind of tourism as well. I like to request to on this forum. Thank you so much for giving this opportunity. Thank you.
You're most welcome.
Thank you very much, Lucky. And yeah, you definitely have a point. And Nepal is probably the classical destination when it comes to environment, protecting the environment, and so forth. So you right on the forefront. And I know Nepal has attended the major trade shows because we actually organized the Nepal evening for the ITB. Unfortunately, we worked very hard to organize it. We had almost 500 people signed up, And then ITB was canceled, unfortunately, in 2020. So we hope we can repeat this with your new team at Nepal Tourism Board. We love to work with them. Out of the only selfish reason is the food is so great. You know, they really go to the local Nepalese restaurant vendors wherever they go, whether it's in London, whether it's in Berlin. And we're going to have some Nepalese food, but it's just absolutely fantastic.
Mhm.
Okay, so I'm wondering, moving on, and feel free to jump in here also when questions are raised in regards to nature tourism and opportunities. Very interesting subject, and it's something we should, have another discussion on. Um, I don't see anyone with the camera
Yes.
ready to speak, but if you are, just jump in or raise your hand. Otherwise, I give it back to Peter.
Hopefully somebody will jump in, because this is meant to have somewhat of a discussion. But if not, I think we might want to talk about the fact that there's been a lot of changes going on in the world today. Changes both here in the United States and changes in the world. So the WTTC is going to be getting a new leader, and that's going to impact much the way some of the major corporations will be dealing with tourism. There's also real issues that are touching at least Europe and the United States, but probably other places, and that's the incredible amount of inflation. It was reported today that the United States has had the worst inflation in 40 years. And that's an economic issue. But if people are spending money on gasoline or having to spend money on food, they can't afford to travel. And so that's going to impact everyone's business. It could be from a wedding where the price has to go up radically to just getting on an airplane. And I think we'll soon be seeing the price of airplanes going up a lot more. And that's going to touch on travel. So the United States and Europe generate so much of the world's tourism that what happens along what we might call the Atlantic community, in other words, the United States and the European community together, what happens in that Atlantic community really impacts the entire world and where it goes. And I don't live along the Atlantic seaboard, but it doesn't matter. I think if you're living in Asia or in Africa or in Japan, wherever, you're going to be impacted by those economic situations. The other thing that's really touching, it's going to be touching the tourism world, is the fact that a lot of countries are printing a lot of money, but they're not producing a lot of goods. And that means when you have a lot of money out in the world, but not a lot of goods to buy, you end up with another set of problems that are going to be taking place. So those are some issues, I think, as we move away from COVID and move into some other big issues, we need to talk about. And certainly what's going on in the WTTC is going to have a big impact. And I know that Juergen's been following that quite a lot. So Juergen, you might want to say a few words about the WTTC.
Yeah, it was actually surprising, I have to say, because Gloria Goreavara, who is the current CEO of the World Travel and Tourism Council, just finished a very successful global summit in Cancun, Mexico, and nothing was mentioned. So it came really to a surprise today, even though I have been communicating with Gloria several times every week, and she never mentioned it. But as of August 1st, she will move on to a new assignment. There are rumors about her assignment, but I don't want to start rumors here.
No. And rumors are only rumors.
They're all good, but we might see some changes. And taking over for the World Travel and Tourism Council is an airline professional. It's Julia Simpson. And Julia was on the board of British Airways, Iberia, and most recently, she was the chief of staff for an international airline group. So her experience is really in the aviation field, what may mean some shifting within how WTTC will be moving forward and thinking. For those of you that are not familiar with WTTC, the World Travel and Tourism Council, it's kind of
Our sister organization.
Yeah, it's the organization that is representing probably the 200 largest companies in the world. So we're talking about the Marriotts, the American Expresses. These are usually the member of WTTC. So there's a lot of power behind it, influence behind it, and balanced out in the leading of the travel and tourism industries, the UNWTO, what is a part of the United Nations system. But due to lack of leadership, let's put it lightly, I think in the UNWTO, WTTC also has been taking over a good part of the public sector. And then of course there's us, we're the new kid on the block with the World Tourism Network. And our focus, as you know, are more the medium and smaller sized businesses. And of course also we work with the public sector. So and if you wanted to jump in on this or give us your feedback on how you think a shifting of a CEO in a tourism organization to be from the aviation field, feel free to do this. And you can just raise your hand and I will shut up and give you the microphone. Other news today, what of course for me was very interesting, Germany is taking the lead in Europe in coming up with a unified system on how to maneuver their tourism, immigration, and health system. And this will probably be adopted by the rest of the European Union. What is very important, and it involves a technical platform, an app, it involves a unified approach for the Schengen area in Europe. These are countries like Austria, Switzerland, Germany, and others. These are cooperations within health authorities. And I think it's needed. Germany, for example, just as of today, and this was a decision just literally taking within hours yesterday, is no longer requiring COVID tests and quarantine for anyone who has the vaccine, both doses of the vaccine. However, only passengers within the European Union are allowed to travel to Germany, even though this seems to be a first step for the European Union also to rethink and think about how to open global tourism again and also let us American come and visit what is important. And we should do the same because Europeans are currently not able to travel to the United States on leisure travel.
Juergen, all of these are going to have, on some level, though, the impact of how well or not well computers work. Because if the computer systems fail, then all these great ideas are going to fall apart. And one of the big threats we're seeing to the tourism industry, we see that in the United States now with ransomware, is what happened to the fact that the tourism industry in the southeastern part of the United States came to an end, lately just stopped. That's including Florida because of the ransomware and the fact that people can't get gas. And ransomware can touch on any of these issues so that if the computer system ceases to work, we're going to have big problems in the tourism industry. So this is a real important issue that you're bringing up, not just for what Germany might be doing or Europe, but also for every opportunity, there's also a danger. And the danger here is that we've got to get better cybersecurity and give people a better sense of that when they give their data, that data is private and will not be attacked, and that the whole system will not collapse when computers go back. We almost have to think a little bit of the fear that we had at Y2K, which did not materialize. I realize that, but there was that fear that things would just not operate. And we're now seeing that fear actualized in the form of ransomware. So I think what you're saying is both an opportunity and a danger.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of thoughts must be put in. I mean, there's so many certificates out there also in regards to who has the vaccine. Some of them may be falsified. There is so much room for fraud. So the whole world really has to come together. And I wish like an organization like the World Health Organization or the UNWTO would have a stronger leadership to put this together. And it looks like everyone is on their own. And hopefully everyone can learn from each other.
I was wondering if any of the people listening have any comments about what we're talking about.
I just wanted to bring up something that is in the news from Europe and also from the US, the trend of and a decrease in domestic flights, yeah, and kind of more relying on the rail and
Yeah.
other options, yeah. I think this is a trend. France is enforcing that in the country, yeah, so that flights that are shorter than 2 or 3 hours, people cannot book them, yeah. They are moving into booking them on trains, yeah, so they are not going to be able to have the flights. And I think for US, there's in discussion now that they want to build a high-speed rail, yeah. And I think this is definitely also an approach what WTN or with a new CEO does it in discussion with aviation. There will be an impact on that, yeah, for probably seeing less domestic or short distance flights, yeah, in order to reduce also the CO2 and the gas. And what also I would like to bring up is the issue with ransom. This is something that was clear and was the case before COVID, and it will continue to be the case. I can only, from my own experience, advocate for having ethical leadership sitting in IT departments. I think this is something that needs to be addressed because there is a lot of misunderstood power from what you can do online, and a lot of basically information that you will not have access to, yeah, because whoever is going to plan anything against any they know how to hide it. No, you cannot track that. So I think this is another approach for leadership to be more ethical, yeah, and then try to, as I mean, we got all used to using more technology, but we also have to be aware that we are opening our more than doors and windows. Everybody is sitting in their home or office. It is actually closer than you could ever imagine. So these
I think we may need at some point to have a real discussion about ethics in tourism. And I think that will be a very important discussion for everybody to have. And I think the world's going to be very different as it comes back. It's not going to come back quite the same way. No one quite has a solution yet. And there are people who argue for more land transportation. Of course, you in Hawaii, no one's going to take a train to you. You're somewhat dependent, unless I take a sailboat or a rowboat. I either take a big boat or a plane.
Build a rail here.
Already has cracks in the rail, so it's not looking good.
Yeah. But even there's lots of discussions. For example, there was talk of a high-speed rail between Los Angeles and San Francisco, and that probably won't happen because the cost overruns have been so tremendous. And what they've done is the government of California has taken that from people who need other basic services, have suffered terribly. And so there's going to be the side of ecology versus cost efficiency. And nobody really has the answer. I mean, there's no one answer. We have to really think through this very carefully and where we spend our money. And unfortunately, we live in a zero-sum game. That means if we only have a certain amount of limited money, if we spend it in one place, we're taking it away from someplace else. So we have to really think through who's going to suffer, who's going to gain. The opposite option of that is just print money. And if you print too much money, you're going to end up with what Germany called the Weimar Republic, where it's going to take $1 trillion to buy a loaf of bread. And one of the jokes going around the world right now is, thank God we don't have a word bigger than a trillion. So it used to be $1 million was a lot. Then $1 billion was a lot, or €1 billion, whatever you want to call it. Now a trillion has become the norm. Where do we go next? We have a gazillion or a gazillion, and you know, what will money be worth? And what's going to happen if we do this to people who are retired and people living on a pension and people living and all those issues? And those are many of the people travel. So will we be, by spending so much money in one area, knocking out a large part of the travel market in another area, especially the senior citizen market, which is one of the largest markets in tourism? So we have to really, there's no one simple answer. I don't know the answer. But what I know is that we have to think this through very carefully. And maybe this is where the World Tourism Network can be so valuable, and fill in the space that the UNWTO did not do. And this is a place, we don't have a country government behind us, but we have population, we have people. And tourism is really based, it's an industry based on small businesses. So if we all work together, and that's why I was so glad to hear about, say, what Nancy was speaking about, as far as, you know, their projects when it comes to weddings and honeymoons or whatever it happens to be. Those are wonderful ways of pulling an industry together and making our mark on the world. So I really thank you all for doing that type of thinking.
That's what I've been trying to promote. Most of my weddings are in Europe, and I said this, they encompass so many in the tourism industry. So one destination wedding, so affects so many people in the hospitality. I mean, you know, the airlines, the hotels, the villas, you know, maybe 26 different people that are in the hospitality industry, or jobs when you do one destination wedding. So I'm really hoping things open up. Italy's a really big market for me. I've been in constant contact with my friends there and hoping things do open up. But to backtrack to the domestic, I flew domestically last week, and I was overwhelmed at every single flight was sold out. I mean, it was unbelievable how crowded the airports were. There's I'm sure you're aware, a shortage on rental cars.
Yes.
You know, I know you're in Hawaii. I know cars are going astronomical.
I'm in Texas, but yes, there's a shortage here too.
Oh my gosh.
It's not only, I mean, the shortage in the cars, sometimes it's not that there is really a shortage in rental car, but rental car companies gave a lot of their cars on assignment back. So they don't have that many cars anymore. And now business is coming back, so that creates the shortage. If they would have held on to their cars, we would have plenty of cars.
Oh,
and then they would have gone out of business.
I know, I understand there's just such a ripple effect on everything. And one other, I wanted to backtrack back to technology. This is for people coming into the States. So now, you know, you need to have your COVID test when you're coming into the US 3 days ahead of time. And they just approved that you can do a at home, but they have to be certain so you can actually go to Walgreens and you can buy this at home test and go away internationally. But the big but, if you drill down on it, is you also need to telehealth it. So when you're doing the test, you need to be online with somebody and they need to be watching you do it and approve it and upload it. So I was reading from other people that if you're in a remote place that doesn't have the technology to get the Wi-Fi to do the telehealth, then it doesn't work. So yeah. I'm just circling back to the technology. Yeah. There's a lot there. There's a lot there. Different things there.
Yeah, and then I think the really important issue is that you bring up is the tourism industry is not an industry. It's a composite industry made of lots of small little components that all have to work together. And if one component goes down, it's like the human body. The whole system gets sick.
I know.
So, yeah, so this is why the World Tourism Network is so important, because we're uniting the various components within the industry. Now, I'm going to have to say goodnight to all of you, because I'm getting up in just a few hours to get on a plane for New York City and Washington. So I want to say I'd say aloha, but in Texas, we don't say that. So I'll say howdy instead and wish everyone a wonderful evening or morning or night, or as I like to say, good. So good to everyone. Fill in the word you like.
Thank
Safe
you, Peter.
travels.
Bye-bye.
Have a safe travel.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. But Nancy, let me ask you, in regards to technology and destination weddings, how you think technology could play a role? Because now we have seen so many weddings going on virtually. And do you think this is going to be a trend, even though if we can physically attend a wedding, that some people, maybe because of age or maybe because of money or fear to travel, say, I'd rather just do it virtually. And this comes like an automatic component with any destination wedding. Do you see this happening?
I think hybrid is here to stay. I think even when people can travel, there's always going to be a virtual component of it, especially more now, but even down the line. I really think some part of the hybrid is going to stay with the events. Just like the events, I know you're going to UAE, and I know that they're offering it in, and then you can have the virtual part of it too if you don't want to attend. I think weddings are going to stay like that now because the technology has gotten so advanced with the virtual everything, virtual booths, virtual invitation, everything. So I do believe it's going to be hybrid.
Yeah, and of course, I mean, most of us in this group are in business. We make money through travel.
Right.
How do you think we can influence the consumer in not really thinking about the virtual part and say, oh, this is some place I should go and I should be part of?
In my opinion, I think it's going to be a personal choice for a while. I think people have to be comfortable and be safe. And I think that if people have the protocols in place and they know exactly what it is and you manage their expectations to start with, but I really do think for a while it's going to come down to a personal comfort level if people think they're safe traveling or not. But then you have some people that are just, yes, I'm there, I'm going to travel, and I think it's going to be cautionary for a while.
Thank you. And so much. If anyone wants to join, I see a number of people here. They haven't said anything, and we definitely would love to hear from you. I see Christine Baumgartner. I see Carrie Williams, Teresa Alexander, Sanchez Mendez. Feel free to jump in, and we love to hear where you are and what your worries and challenges are currently, or how do you see the industry is going. And so don't be shy. It's just a small group of us. And well, if I don't hear, and no one else wants to jump in, that's great. I think we had a good discussion.
I think so too.
There is news ongoing. We had a really busy news day today, and it's still developing. Of course, one disappointing news was that a number of cruises out of the West Coast, Los Angeles, have been canceled due to government restrictions in Asia. And that, of course, is disappointing because the the cruise industry has been fighting very hard to really relaunch. So we wish them all the best, and we hope that governments can come together. But we also understand the situation is different depending where you go. I don't think, as much as I like to travel to India in normal times, I would go to India right now, even if I could. So this world we're not repaired yet, but we need to structure tourism a little bit better so people know what they can do, what they cannot do, and find an easy way to move forward. That's, I think, why the technology plays such a major role in there. And well, we see. Hopefully next week we're going to have an event. I don't know what date yet because I'll be in Dubai. So we're going to try to do this from Dubai. Maybe we get some guests from the Arabian travel market to be part of it. Our other co-host, Dr. Taleb Rifai, he will do the opening speech at the Arabian travel market. So maybe we get him live on next week. And we will definitely keep you informed. Otherwise, if you read eTurboNews, we work 24/7. And we're going to update you with anything we can find in the world, what is important to travel and tourism. And I wanted to thank everyone for attending. I wish you a nice evening, morning, day, and let's hope for some peace in the world. Terrible situation in Israel and Palestine right now. Let's hope that things are calming down and not escalate anymore. Let's hope that India, Pakistan, and also Nepal can report better COVID numbers very soon, and more important, that people are staying healthy. And especially lucky, I know for you, it's very early in Nepal, and thank you so much specifically for you to be part of both events this week. In any case, namaste, lucky, and aloha from Hawaii. Good evening, and I guess we see you all soon.
Yeah, safe travels.
Thank
Have
you
fun next week.
all. Thanks, Jürgen.
Nice
Safe
seeing you.
travel.
See you all one day in one place. Yeah.
We do that.
Have a good day. Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
To develop our recovery program. We want to make sure that you are all aware of the importance of reassuring wary tourists that it's safe to travel in the USA. We are going to share the priorities in terms of countries that are going to be earliest to return to international travel. And then Karen Grunberg is going to share opportunities for you to take advantage of the momentum in those countries that are getting to travel very soon. Before we get into that though, I want to say a thank you to Isabel Hill, who will be sharing a pre-recorded segment on the state of the state. So thanks again to Isabel Hill, Acting Deputy Assistant Secretary and Director of the National Travel and Tourism Office. Brian, if you can play the video.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever in the world you may be. It's a pleasure to participate in today's Brand USA webinar on international travel and consumer sentiment. I don't need to tell you what challenging times we're living through, but what I want to share with you is our perspective on where we are today and our thoughts on the future. While the industry has been disproportionately affected by COVID-19 health measures, the rollout of vaccines is changing the risk equation for travelers and communities. Vaccines are a key part of the answer to safely opening travel. As of May 9th, nearly 260 million doses had been administered. More than 152 million people have received at least one dose in the United States, and nearly 58% of the United States adult population is fully vaccinated. Meanwhile, as of May 5th, the 7-day moving average of new COVID-19 cases in the United States declined 13% compared with the previous 7-day average, and nearly 82% from the highest peak on January the 8th. As a result, we are seeing destinations across the country begin to reopen. California Governor Gavin Newsom is hopeful that if the state continues on its current path of getting residents vaccinated for COVID-19, they can fully reopen on June 15th and do away with their pandemic-era color-coded tier system for establishing which businesses can be open and under what conditions. The California Department of Public Health guidance for travelers includes testing and self-quarantine and following CDC health guidelines. Florida currently has no travel restrictions in place, although the Florida Department of Health says that residents and visitors are advised to wear face coverings if social distancing is not possible. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo announced a major reopening on May 19, at which point restaurants, museums, theaters, and retail outlets can be allowed to reopen at capacity. The news came as New York closed in on administering at least one dose of COVID-19 vaccine for half of its residents. Governor Cuomo worked with Connecticut and New Jersey to roll out a regionally coordinated plan, and those states will drop capacity restrictions on the same day. The states will still require adherence to the CDC's 6-foot distancing rule unless businesses can prove that people are gathering or vaccinated. And my community of Washington, D.C. is on the path to reopening as well. The District of Columbia issued updated travel requirements for anyone traveling into Washington, D.C. The testing requirement is waived if an individual has been fully vaccinated and does not have any COVID-19 symptoms. The requirement is also waived for those who have tested positive for COVID-19 within the last 90 days and don't have symptoms. Other states and cities are making reopening decisions and changing levels of restriction and health guidance for residents and travelers. And as you can see from these examples, much like the member states of the European Union, destinations in the United States are responding to conditions on the ground in keeping with their judgment on how to best move forward as these conditions evolve. It appears that the combination of an overall decrease in COVID-19 cases in the US, combined with the widespread distribution of vaccines, along with its fiscal stimulus, has had a positive impact on travel and tourism within the United States. And isn't it great to be able to hear some good news these days? We're seeing some green shoots in our national data. Our National Travel and Tourism Office has created a COVID recovery monitor on our website that tracks key indicators for travel and tourism. This new interactive visualization tool is updated weekly and has 6 sections: COVID-19, international visitation, travel indicators, travel and trade, key economic indicators, and business and consumer sentiment. The National Travel and Tourism Office has just released another set of data visualization tools called the I-94 Visitor Arrivals Monitors. These 2 new products provide statistics and insights on key indicators for non-resident visitors to the United States at the international, overseas, and top world region levels. We are working to include country-level data in the future. These new monitors can be found on the I-94 program page at www.trade.gov I-94 Arrivals Program. Looking at these data, we see signs of encouragement. One indicator is the volume of trips taken by auto in April 2021. It's interesting to note that it was just 0.8% compared to April of 2019 before COVID hit. It's an improvement from the average of negative 17.5% during the prior 3 months. And it is the smallest decline since the COVID-19 pandemic began to significantly impact the US economy in March of 2020. The number of air passengers is going through TSA security at US airports in April of 2021 was down 41% compared to April 2019, pre-COVID. But it is a great improvement from the average of negative 55% during the previous 3 months. And again, the smallest decline since the pandemic began to significantly impact the US economy. Hotel room demand in March 2021 was 24.7% compared to March 2019, an improvement from the average of negative 30% during the prior 3 months. And again, the smallest decline since the COVID-19 pandemic began to significantly impact the US economy. In April 21st, 43.3% of American households planned on taking a vacation in the next 6 months, which is a significant improvement from 34% in February and 33% in December. And it's the highest since October's 44.9%. Total travel spending in March was 30.5% compared to March 2019. An improvement from the average decline of 40% during the prior 3 months, and also the smallest decline since the pandemic began to significantly impact the US economy. Travel spending in March totaled $69.5 billion, the highest amount since the COVID pandemic began to impact our economy in March of 2020. Travel-related leisure and hospitality employment increased by nearly 1 million during the most recent 3 months. Still, April 2021 leisure and hospitality employment remained 16.8% below the pre-COVID peak of 16.9 million employed in February of 2020. By comparison to the rest of the economy, overall April non-farm employment was down 5.5%. So we are continuing to be disproportionately affected. International inbound travel remains deeply depressed, with visitation to the United States totaling just 531,000 in February of 2021, down 86% from the prior year. In April of 2021, 43.3% of American households said they plan to vacation in the next 6 months, and that's up from 34% in February of 2021, and the highest since October of 2020. The increase in April was from Americans taking domestic trips. International intentions remained unchanged and quite low. Interestingly, Americans are expecting to take more trips by airplane in the next 6 months compared to their intentions during the past year. On average, between April and February 2020 and February of 2021, 60% of vacation intentions were by auto and 37% were by airplane. But by April of 2021, vacation intentions had shifted to being 53% by auto and 44% by airplane. This is hopeful news that long-haul domestic travel is beginning to show signs of recovery for summer of 2021. So as you can see, while we appear to be turning the corner, we are not yet out of the woods. So let me touch on what the US government is doing on the economic front to assist the travel and tourism industry and mitigate the effects of COVID-19 pandemic. President Biden signed the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021, a $1.9 trillion COVID-19 relief package that includes federal support for the recovery of the travel and tourism industry, among others, including aid to local governments, economic development grants, funds for airports and concessionaires, as well as money for airlines and contractors in payroll support programs. Also, the CARES Act and the Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations Acts of 2021 provided assistance for workers and businesses and is helping to preserve jobs for American industries. Specific programs include the Paycheck Protection Program, employee retention credits, payroll tax deferral, economic security, economic injury disaster loans, shuttered venue operator grants, and economic development grants to states and communities. The administration has also been working hard to ensure equitable relief to hard-hit small businesses and has made progress. For instance, the share of funding from the Payroll Protection Program going to small businesses with fewer than 10 employees increased nearly 60%, and the share of funding going to small businesses in rural areas went up nearly 30%. And this is good because rural areas have been especially attractive to consumers during the pandemic, but businesses in those areas have been especially vulnerable to closing. In addition, the Shuttered Venue Operators Program is now taking applicants. This SBA program will provide more than $16 billion in grants to shuttered venues, which will mean more places for visitors to go and the rescue of many of America's entertainment locations. These programs have been critical in supporting businesses and protecting the ecosystem of travel and tourism related businesses that provide the experiences across the United States that both domestic and international visitors seek. Recently, the Economic Development Administration was awarded $3 billion in grant funding in the American Rescue Plan Act. $750 million of that is specifically for communities affected by travel and tourism losses. The Travel and Tourism Advisory Board responded to Secretary Raimondo's request to identify leisure and business projects that would be the most impactful in assisting states and communities that have suffered economic injury related to the travel, tourism, and outdoor recreation industries. The Economic Development Administration is finalizing their program design and will issue a notice of funding opportunities in the weeks to come. The Travel and Tourism Advisory Board has consistently emphasized the importance of contactless travel for the United States, and this is even more important today. Customs and Border Protection has been working with airlines and airports throughout the pandemic to reduce the number of physical touch points throughout the travel continuum by accelerating the use of available technology. Facial comparison technology for entry is now deployed at 43 airports, and biometric exit is deployed at 20 airports in the United States. Biometric facial comparison service is also available for pedestrian crossings at the land border at 41 locations. As conditions in the United States and other countries evolve, so do CDC guidance and entry requirements. If traveling internationally, you must get a COVID-19 test no more than 3 days before you return by air to the United States. You are required to show a negative COVID-19 test result or documentation of recovery from COVID-19 before boarding a flight to the United States. And as we know, even with a vaccine, travelers can be asymptomatic and could risk infecting others. It is important to note that the CDC recommends that even fully vaccinated travelers get tested 3 to 5 days after travel. Travelers not fully vaccinated should also get tested 3 to 5 days after travel and stay home or otherwise self-quarantine for 7 days. I would encourage you to include the CDC's website in your list of resources for trip planning, which is www.cdc.gov, coronavirus 2019. I would also refer you to the Department of Transportation website, a valuable web resource for air travelers at www.flyhealthy.gov, flyhealthy. As you have just heard, the U.S. government is hard at work doing what we can to address the underlying health crisis, making the country safe for residents and attractive to visitors. We are seeing some destinations open up, and as expected, we are seeing the first return of domestic travel. And while I cannot predict when we will be able to safely lift international travel restrictions, what I can say is that we are making real progress in the right direction. Consular Affairs has begun to take visa applications for students for the fall semester, even in countries from which travel to the United States is restricted at the current time. I want to thank you and Brand USA for your continued engagement and your patience and hard work as we all manage these historic challenges toward a brighter future. I'm Isabel Hill, the Acting Deputy Assistant Secretary for Travel and Tourism at the Department of Commerce, and I look forward to seeing you in person.
Okay, see if I can get this back. Okay. Thank you very much, Isabel, for sharing that information. It is indeed positive news to hear about all the changes in domestic travel. And what we're going to do next is give you our perspective on international travel, as I mentioned, to help you make your travel plans and marketing plans. Before I get into this though, I did notice a couple questions, one on the website address and another that the video may have cut out for someone. What I want to let you know is that we are going to be making this entire presentation along with Isabel's recording available on our corporate website after the meeting. So if by some chance you missed out on anything, it will be available to you in its entirety a little bit later this afternoon. So the next segment of this webinar is going to be market intelligence and then marketing insights in terms of which of the countries that we focus on will be returning to travel first. What consumers are saying. What Brand USA has done is taken a look and aggregated research from across the industry to create some insights that we are using to plug into our recovery campaign. And the first one, which is indeed good news, is that international travel is a high budget priority for travelers all over the globe. And what they're hoping for, and you'll hear that word hope a lot because plans are still a little bit up in the air for many markets, all markets, that almost 50% of respondents expect to take more international trips this year compared to last. And when I say international, and you'll hear Rosina say this a little bit later, international is international. It is not necessarily United States targeted. It is truly the world of international travel destinations. 41% expect to spend more on their international trips. So we know the spirit is willing, and then when the borders open, we will see pent-up demand. Also, travelers want to get back to the USA soon. And so again, we're showing you these numbers knowing that 2021 is still a little bit of a conundrum, but people want to come back to the United States as soon as they can. Consumers are so looking forward to traveling, and I think this is a very interesting point, that they're willing to give up social media for a month to come to the United States, and that's 64% of respondents. 87% agree that having a trip planned in the future gives them something to look forward to. And this is a fact that we have seen time and again, that people enjoy travel planning almost as much as they enjoy travel itself. 76% of respondents are creating their destination wish list for future travel, even though they know that they may not be able to travel yet. And 56 are willing to book a trip now, even if they have to cancel in the future. So these are all very positive things to express about the state of travel. In addition, and I think that everyone on this webinar knows, planning future travel makes consumers feel excited, happy, and hopeful. And even though Brand USA's plans include transactional elements, inspiration is still the name of the game while people are stuck at home travel planning. We talk a lot at Brand USA about connections. Somehow or another that came up as a conversation early on in the pandemic, and we've revisited this phrase over and over again. So when I was looking at the American Express global travel survey that they released in April, I thought that these facts were really interesting. Consumers want to travel to make connections with friends and loved ones. And I realize these three graphics are a little bit hard to see, but the points I'll call out are people want to travel to visit the loved ones that they couldn't see in 2020. That seems so obvious, but I think it's important to call out that people miss their friends and families. People want to travel to enjoy a romantic getaway with their spouse. Even if you have been stuck for the last 14 months with your spouse in a small enclosed space, it is really important for you to get out and experience the world with your significant other, so that you can feel like you are connecting with the world again. And then finally, and this is a topic you're going to see over and over again in the upcoming slides, people want to travel to take a vacation with their family in 2021, and especially in the Brand USA survey information, focus on children who have really missed out over the last 14 months is a very high priority for parents. A couple things that I think we have to make sure that we call out. According to TripAdvisor, the new consumer mindset, which emerged early on in the pandemic but is still with us, is that people are concerned about personal and health and safety. And that's really important when travel planning. Even though people are vaccinated, they are still very concerned that the places they visit, that they are not necessarily entering into crowded situations, that the hotels, that the airlines are all meeting safety standards, because that is critically important, even as we see vaccine cases decline. Something else that I thought was really very interesting is that at the same time that people need new information, they want this information to be unbiased and trustworthy. And when you look at where folks go for this information, over the course of the pandemic, it has shifted. So since the pandemic, according to the Edelman Trust Barometer, businesses have emerged as more trustworthy than other institutions like government that may have a bias or may have a reason for positioning information in a certain way. So it's very important that as you put out information, you are making sure that it is trustworthy and it is reliable. One of the sources that has emerged as a reliable source for travel inspiration are key opinion leaders, KOLs, and online video content. So I know that this probably is very hard to see, this little chart, but across the last 3 years, these are the only two channels of communication, two platforms that have increased in trustworthiness. Excuse me. So as Brand USA is putting together its plan, you can be sure that influencers and online video are front and center. Finally, excuse me, consumers are becoming conscious travelers. And so some of the things that Isabel talked about, you're going to see here. Focus on small local businesses while traveling is really important. Many people are passionate about traveling to destinations to help boost the local economy. 69% are interested in visiting lesser known destinations, which has as much to do with staying away from crowded places as it does with trying to see places they haven't seen before and experiencing different cultures. And 69% want to choose an airline or hotel that values diversity and inclusion. For me, and for the work that we do at Brand USA, these are all very, very positive pieces of information that we will build into our campaigns. And I wanted to make sure that you saw these too, because they are what you'll see in our work over the next couple weeks. So finally, before I hand this off to Rosina, in the year ahead, travel will play an increasingly critical role in strengthening connections, broadening horizons, and bridging divides. That's thanks to Expedia Group, who put that together. Travelers around the world want to travel internationally and are demonstrating progressively more optimism about booking their trips. And the international markets will come back online, but at different paces, depending on infection rates, vaccine availability, and entry and exit policies. So with that, I'm going to hand this off to Rosina Barbastefano, Director of Consumer Research at Brand USA, who's going to give you a peek into how we're seeing the markets and their return to travel. Take it away, Rosina.
Thank you, Tracy. Hello, everyone. I will share with you some results of our latest polls and talk about our gating criteria. Next slide. First, let's talk about those requirements that people express need to be in place for them to feel safe to travel overseas. As you can see in the footnote, this is about all our 11 markets, but for Canada and Mexico, it's international travel. And I'm also going to talk to you about those requirements that they see as deterrents. Among the general population across the 11 markets that we are tracking, the top 3 requirements are low number of COVID cases in the destination, air passengers meeting general health requirements, and screening like wearing masks and the temperature checks, as well as being vaccinated. This varies slightly among potential travelers. Those are the ones that I'm calling, that are saying that they're planning on taking a trip in the next 12 months. For them, the most important factor is the air passenger requirements, followed by COVID vaccine and social distancing. This is consistent across all those 11 markets. On the other side, the most significant return that both the general population and those potential travelers keep pointing out are quarantine requirements, either for 14 days, which is the usual, or even for shorter period of time with a negative test results, as well as submitting to and paying for the COVID test before departing or returning flights. This has remained consistent since we started asking about it back in September. Next slide. Now, today we're going to have a different approach than what you might have seen in our past research webinars. As Tracy mentioned, this time we're going to be talking only about the markets we expect to rebound faster in terms of travel to the US. And for this reason, we are including them as part of our phase 1 of our recovery strategy. Those are Canada and Mexico, mainly on the assumption of proximity, being our neighbors, and their familiarity with our market, as well as UK and Germany, based on the assumption of familiarity. However, it is important to point out that this could change. We keep monitoring all our 11 markets based on the gating criteria that I will talk about shortly. But next slide. Let's start with the UK. Based on the latest monthly polls, we're seeing they're planning on taking an international trip. Again, as Tracy mentioned, this refers to international trips, not necessarily to the US. And again, what we're seeing for them is late summer, early fall planning, and then picking a little bit up again at the end of Q1 of next year. Regarding their personal considerations when selecting a destination in terms of an international destination, again, across the board is resting and relaxing. The UK is not unique in this. And this is very similar to what we had seen before the pandemic. However, as Tracy pointed out earlier, engaging the kids in activities specialized for them keeps popping up way more than we had seen, and even compared to 2019 levels. For that reason, we're expecting to see this to play an important role as travel picks up. Next slide. Now this is a snapshot of our gating criteria, which some of you might be familiar already, and you might have seen it already, but if not, you can find it on our corporate website. This has been set up on 5 factors. One of them is the US government entry policy that for the UK, you see as a strict restriction for now. Then the number of COVID daily cases. Our target here is to see 3 months of daily average new cases below the 500, or 3 consecutive months of less than 15% month-over-month growth. Using SABRE data, the graph in the bottom, we're looking at scheduled seat capacity of inbound flights to the US. Here the target for our gating criteria is 3 consecutive months of growth, over 15% month-over-month. On the Google trend, what we're using is an index of flight as a search topic, meaning everything that is aggregating under flights. The target here as well is 3 consecutive months of growth of at least 15% on a month-by-month basis. And finally, the chart on the right at the bottom is their intent to take an international leisure trip in the next 12 months. This is based on our monthly polls. In each market, we survey 1,000 people of the general population, and the target of this factor is 3 consecutive months of over 10% month-over-month growth. When you see here for the UK recoveries, we're seeing improvements, but certainly not meeting the targets. The targets that we have set internally at Brand USA are designed to help us determine when recovery is sufficient in these markets for us to resume our marketing activities. Next. Now let me talk to you about Germany. This market is showing some international travel planning peaks, same as the UK, late summer, early fall. However, more so than the Germans, than the UK, this might mean regional international travel more than long haul necessarily, which means that they're going to be staying most likely during the summertime within Europe when it's allowed for them. Regarding the personal consideration, just like the UK, the number 1 consideration is resting and relaxing. Different to the British, Germans are valuing more connecting with nature. Most likely, probably is just using the outdoors as part of a safety measure as well. Next slide. Based on our gating criteria, COVID cases are still on the red side. The US entry policy is still on the restricted restrictions. But we're seeing less fluctuation on the air capacity, which is meaning what the airlines are offering. Just like the UK, we're not meeting yet those targets, but I think we're seeing some green on the charts that every time we see them makes us look on the positive side. Next slide. Now Mexico. The Mexicans' intent to travel is skewing more towards the end of this year, with the smaller peaks during the summer. Again, this is international travel, which mainly would probably mean travel to the US, but not necessarily or exclusive to us. Same as the European markets, the main reason for them is selecting a destination is being able to relax. Next slide. Yes, our US policy is on a moderate restriction. COVID daily average monthly over month growth is as early of this week is on the green side. For us, it's on the positive side. The Google search flight is still on the red side, but the gap between the target bar and the actual is narrowing down a bit. Same as the air capacity. However, this needs to be cleared out. It's airline offering, and it's not necessarily saying that it's all Mexican travel to the US. Whereas the consumer intent is still fluctuating a bit. Next slide. Finally, let me talk about Canada as the forward market that we're focusing on primarily as part of the recovery. In terms of where they're planning, different than the other four markets, they're really pushing it towards the end of Q1 of next year. Again, no surprise here due to government restrictions on their side and lockdown measures that are currently in effect. This again might change in the next pulse that we have. Same with the other three markets. Resting is the #1 reason for selecting an international destination. Next slide. Looking at the gating criteria, same as Mexico, the travel restrictions are moderate. These are extended until May 21st. The number of COVID cases on a day-by-day basis has gone up based on our target criteria. All the other as well, and all the other factors are still in the red. We're expecting this to start improving as the pace of the vaccine rollouts in Canada speed up. Next slide. The information covered for this four markets will also be available for the other 7 markets that we track, and they will be available in the full deck that would be later available on the corporate website. And to wrap up, based on what I covered, I want to leave you with 3 key takeaways. There's an pent-up demand. International traveling planning most likely is going to start taking place late summer, early fall of this year. It might be to us, but at least it's going to be international. Based on the assumption of proximity and familiarity, we are expecting the travel to the US to be first come back from Canada, Mexico, UK, and Germany. And for this reason, we're including these markets as part of our phase 1 recovery plan. However, again, this could change as things keep evolving. And after seeing consistently for several months now, we're expecting traveling with kids to play a big role as travel picks up. As we keep seeing that engaging the kids in the activities for them keeps being over-indexing compared to what we had seen in 2019. And with this, I want to handle it off to Karen to talk about our programs.
Thank you, Rosina. That's always interesting information, and that helps guide us how we work with the partners in the US in helping them with recovery, but also help extend whatever dollars they may have in marketing internationally in the coming years. So there's 3 areas of focus that we're going to talk about, and we're going to talk with programs that are underway right now, which we are continuing to educate the travel trade. And throughout the year, we have been evolving how we do this because the times are changing. And we've continued some of the programs that we always have been successful with, such as the USA Discovery Program. Earlier this year, we launched the Global Marketplace with great success, which has been a new way for us to work with the travel trade. And based on requests from our partners, we'll talk about the new video trainings that we are going to be rolling out very shortly. We align all of our marketing with what we're doing with the consumer team. So the next phase is really the inspiring people, telling people we are ready, creating content that instills confidence in the travelers as they're considering to travel. So We have a few new programs, and we will continue to push out the programs we've always used for inspiration, such as our 2020 Global Inspiration Program, updating our website and pushing out media support behind that. And then what's most key, where we've made a number of significant changes for 2021 and 22, is really a stronger focus on activation. We want to create demand through relevant content and relevant stories that will lead to bookings across multiple platforms and multiple countries as soon as the time is ready. Next slide. So as we look at the travel trade and how we've extended our programs, we know that it is imperative that we reach all of our travel trade multiple times with different knowledge that is needed when it's needed. And the way our travel trade is consuming their media and their learning has also changed throughout the year. The trade needs to be ready with reliable content that helps them to build the consumer confidence that the USA is ready. And then they also have seen, as we saw in our research today, there's strong interest in traveling beyond the gateways and in supporting local business. So we want to make the information available to our tour operators and travel agents to help sell new product. And as you all know, because we're living it every day, there are a multitude of virtual platforms, and those platforms require new content and new tools. And at the request of our partners, we have developed some tools that I'm going to share with you on the next slide. The number one new tool right now is our Destination 101 customized training videos that the partners who work with us in the US can continue to utilize content that we have already developed and help us create some great training videos that we can use on a variety of platforms, including our USA Discovery platform and the global marketplace. Most of our US partners do work with us on the USA Discovery channel, and this year, more than ever, it has been so important. We have completed 93,000 badges and have had more than 70,000 travel agents participate in this program. So adding new content, refreshing your content, adding these training videos will be a great service. And then we have the global marketplace, and we continue to update that with new content that is relevant for the tour operators and for the consumer. Right now, we're in the process of bringing our partners back in for phase 2 of the global marketplace, and we will see a series of events and activities throughout the next year. We're hosting a webinar for participating partners tomorrow with more details. What I also want to mention is you have our Brand USA team, you also have our team at Miles, all available to go into more details on these programs. Hopefully we've talked to many of you already. Next slide, please. Then destination readiness. Aligned with our consumer strategy, we have looked at where we need to continue to develop programs, and those include influencers, video social cuts, using the content we already have created over the last few years, and then distributing that to let people know about the wide open spaces and the safety. And then we will be creating a new type of inspiration program. It's a digital first approach. It will have measurable results. It will launch next February after we're done with distribution, the last global inspiration program. And we go on to the next slide. And the reason for this is the consumers need us to help remind them that the destinations are ready to safely welcome visitors. And these are very affordable tools that we have developed to get that message out there. As we see in our research, both influencers and online video are top source of a trusted content, which is why we're creating a cooperative plan to work with all of our partners on influencers. Also, with pent-up demand, we need to be out there, create awareness for US destinations as premier choices for people to consider and book their travel. And the content that we've created to engage with our partners on is a way to do that in bulk and make it very affordable. We know our partners' resources are limited for producing new content, so we have found ways to repurpose a lot of the content we have created to return to international markets so we can influence the decisions properly when the timing is right. Next slide. When it comes to activation, which the majority of the partners who work with us in the US and our travel trade throughout the world want, is going to be the key focus on everything we do. But we have to do that by both inspiring people to consider the US and then follow up with an activation campaign. In our board meeting next week, you'll have more details of where we are going from a consumer standpoint on our activation campaign. But as both Rosina and Tracy shared, many markets are demonstrating great optimism for international travel. And we need to make sure that we are using our marketing dollars on the markets that recover first and generate bookings quickly. We know that the consumers feel happy and hopeful when they get to plan their trips. So telling the stories and making it easily possible to book your travel is critically important into the strategy that we have put forth with our partner cooperative programmings. And then of course, stimulating interest. And what's always important and more important than ever is we have to determine low cost, high value opportunities that we can provide with measurable results for each of the partners that we include in our campaigns. We go on to the next slide. And so doing that, we've launched a series of new programs. In addition to our multi-channel, which is our most popular and successful booking program we've had out there, we are adding several other activation programs for 2021 and 2022. We have been creating airline partnerships. We have a program with Air Canada. We've created tour operator co-ops with the list that's listed: BA Holidays, Trailfinders, Canusa, Price Travel. We have 4 more in the works right now. And what's unique about these cooperative programs for us and the partners that we engage with is that 100% of the dollars that we put into this program are really for marketing externally. And we have a commitment from all of these tour operators that they will give us the measurable results and KPIs we identify, including booking information, which for many of our partners, when they work on a one-to-one basis, are challenged at getting that type of information. We continue to work with our affinity partners, which is a great way and a quick way to get back into market when the borders open. Our 3 partners listed here have been really supportive of adding additional value and opportunities with us for a quick relaunch and to extend our own dollars as far as we can. And then we also work with media partners within various countries, and we have these opportunities available for us to cooperate and collaborate with our partners and really push out individual messaging around coming to the USA. We also have several programs in the UK. We are actually renegotiating the assets right now so we can move them more quickly into market. And finally, our consumer recovery program, which will be again talked about a little more detail at our next board meeting. There'll be opportunities for partners to work with us in ways that we have not done in our consumer programs, from content development and also retargeting opportunities in cooperation with the tour operators and OTAs that we will be partnering with on a consumer standpoint. So in closing, I just want to say that we are ready and to welcome the return of the international visitor. We will continue to monitor the market based on the criteria to resume our marketing activities effectively, adjust the prioritization of the countries based on market conditions and consumer intent. And to that point, for our partners, we are constantly looking at the dates and keeping you informed of changes of launch dates or presumed launch dates for existing campaigns. But we're getting ready for that. And we understand there's still a lot of uncertainty, but we will continue to provide you the advice, the opportunities, and the insights and the support to make sure we are marketing in the right markets at the right time for the right partners with the right messaging. So go on to the next slide. Before we open this up for questions, I'll turn it back to Tracy.
Thanks so much, Karen, and thanks, Rosina, and thanks to Isabel. What I want to do is bring you up to speed on a couple dates that are upcoming that you and the listening audience might be interested in on May 19th is our quarterly board meeting. And if you're interested in hearing a little bit more about what Brand USA is building from a recovery perspective, we'll be sharing our campaign strategy, some very, very early on creative, and you'll hear a little bit more there. So I'd like to entice you to join. On May 25th, we have our multicultural strategy webinar, so you can learn how to participate in this program. And then our next board meeting is on July 20th. And at that point, the world will have spun quite a few times between now and then, and we will be providing you updates on our take on market reopening. So before that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen because I can't see the questions that are coming in without looking at the questions. And I know we've got quite a few, so let me look and see. A couple of the questions have to do again with releasing the website information that Isabel shared. That is going to be available on our website when we post this information. Data on the importance of U.S. destinations maintaining or supporting safety and security policies. One of the things that I think is really critically important, and I know that Chris has mentioned over and over again in various presentations and interviews, is the importance of building confidence. And confidence comes in a lot of different forms. It's knowing what to expect before you leave your home. It's making sure that you've got clear and trustworthy information about the safety standards and the policies that are in place for the USA and for your destination. And all of that is going to be built into our campaign from a messaging standpoint. And I would encourage Jack, I guess you're asking that question, to build that into your own messaging. Also on Brand USA, we do have a page on our consumer website that lists links to all of the states and their policies. That's updated by the states, but that is internationally available to everyone that follows us on websites. What is the rationale for focusing on familiarity for countries to return to recovery? So that's a really good question. I think there are two things that we'll be focusing on from a messaging standpoint. Part one is for those markets that are ready to return, low-hanging fruit, as it were, our engagement framework, which we've shared previously, and again, we'll share more information on during our board meeting, has three elements to it. The first comms task, that first phase of what we're calling re-entry recovery, is proving we're ready, making sure the world knows that the United States is open for international travel and we're ready for those international travelers. The second phase, which focuses on welcoming the world back, is a combination of high-level inspiration through activation and then handing off to our third phase, which is to entice and convert. So your question, anonymous attendee, is quite apt, and we will be working along these three. So it's not just our familiarity markets, it's also focusing on inspiration across the globe. But for the purposes of today, we wanted you to understand where we were going to be focusing on for the near term from that three-phase reentry campaign. Another question on the economic considerations like cost of travel goods pending recession or recession-like conditions, as well as job losses. I don't know if anyone else wants to jump into this, but I think that the conversations that I've had and some of the survey questions that Rosina fielded over the last month shows that in certain markets, there is a concern that people may not have the same dollars available to them to travel. And that for us, Brand USA, activates what we call our proximity strategy, which is our value proposition that shows how to enjoy the USA and why this idea of proximity, which gives you more bang for your buck, your peso, your real, in one trip than you may get other places. But I do think, I don't have a strict answer to that, but I do think it's another consideration, and I think it's a good point to have raised. Karen, there is a question here on how to be a partner. Do you want to answer that one?
Absolutely. If we have not spoken with you, you can reach out to myself, Kay Grunberg at thebrandusa.com. and we can talk to you about the opportunities that we have with that we work with our partners on.
Another good question, what does Brand USA view the opportunities in APAC to be? What you will see if you go and download the whole deck is our views on Australia, on Korea, on Japan, and China. All very, very important markets for the USA. And as I've mentioned in the answers to other questions, these are still critical markets. We will still be focusing on them from an inspiration standpoint. But from the research that we're getting back, the consumer surveys, these are what I'm calling our next markets, not our now markets. Can we still sign up for the global marketplace? Karen, you want to answer that one?
Absolutely. And again, whoever an anonymous attendee is, if we haven't reached out to you, I'll send you my email and we'll reach out to you right away. We would love to have you join us. We've had a number of new partners join us just this week.
Karen, another question that I think, I don't know if you want to answer this one. Is there a golf tourism component? And that's interesting. I know we've talked about this kind of very neat, not niche, I guess that's not the right word, but this kind of activation. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Certainly. Yes, we did run a cooperative golf program for a couple of years, but we were not getting enough destination interested. We do work with a few organizations and a few tour operators that focus on golf. And Kevin, I'm happy to chat with you and show you how you can get more engaged in the programs that we do on golf with the travel trade in the marketplace.
Great. U.S. resident sentiment is an important ingredient in welcoming international tourists. I could not agree more. Destination analysts did a international travel report that actually we borrowed from for this presentation. And what they're showing is that domestic interest in and acceptance of international travel is growing. That is not to say that it has reached the level perhaps that we would hope, but people are increasingly, as they feel more confident about it, being able to move around in their own place, as they feel that their community is opening back up, that they're able to go to restaurants, that they're able to do the things that they want to do, so too does their interest in welcoming tourists. I am happy to make, actually in the link of the document, if you download it from our website, is the link to that full survey, which is many pages. And so if you want more details from the research that we pulled, you'll find it there. Okay, another anonymous one that Chris, perhaps, do you want to answer about marketing intent and lowering restrictions in the USA?
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks to Isabel and the team for all they brought forward today. Certainly our partnership with the federal government through the 9 federal agencies that we have ongoing relationships with help inform those conversations. But as far as the advocacy for that, the majority of that is channeled and led by U.S. Travel as the lead advocacy voice in Washington, D.C. And certainly they've done a great job and have the priorities in the right spot as it relates to the urgency of when it's the right time of opening borders and welcoming international visitors back.
Thank you, Chris. I'm looking to see, so we have another golf tourism component. How can we work with Brand USA in some of the international countries that Brand USA is focusing currently? Karen, I would kind of throw this one your way too.
Yes, we have a variety of programs and opportunities, and we do customized marketing opportunities working with our partners. It's just, again, have a conversation with us. If you do not have a brand representative, if you do not currently have someone from Brand USA working with you or from our Miles team, I encourage you just to send me a note and we'll make sure that we reach out to you. We are always looking at extending our partner outreach and inclusion into our programs.
Thank you very much, Karen. And then finally, I think we're at time, but there's one more question on inclusivity and diversity. And as you will hear again, if you join our upcoming board meeting on the 19th or our multicultural strategy webinar on the 25th, everything that Brand USA does embraces diversity and inclusion. And Black-owned businesses and experiences, small businesses, cultural heritage experiences are critically important. And we want to make sure that the reopening of travel impacts those businesses in a very positive way. So if you'll join us on one of our upcoming webinars, you'll see more about how we intend to build multicultural content into everything we do. So with that, I think I will point you all in the direction of our corporate website. This recording will be available there later on today, and I'm going to suggest to our team that we make it available not only as a recording but also as a multimedia file so that people can download the document itself and click through to the link so they can see for themselves some of the research that we shared during this call. So thank you very much. This has been a great hour. We will be back to you probably in late June or early July with our next webinar update. And in the meantime, if you've got questions, please feel free to reach out to us directly. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.